Welcome back to the Right Way Sports Network YouTube channel. It is your boy Shaun Chornobroff with Christian DeBlock, and we are here to talk some U.S. men's national team soccer. And I know Christian's a soccer guy. I'm the NFL guy around here, one of the NFL guys. But trust me, there's nothing I love more than some U.S. soccer and just the sport in general. But with that said, before we dive into any of this, remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Twitter, Instagram, and leave your thoughts in the comment section. Like, there's a lot of going on with the U.S. men's national team right now, and I'd really love to see what the educated minds out there, the ones who are going to see this, would really love this. Really love to see your guys' opinions in the comment section. But with that said, U.S. men's national team, after a historically successful summer, is what I'll call it, is going to start up World Cup qualifying on September 2nd. They will be facing El Salvador at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time. That will be followed up by Canada on Sunday, September 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and then to finish it off against our Honduran rivals on Wednesday, September 8th at 10:05 p.m. So, Christian, I guess we could go into the squad in a minute, but let's talk about the overall expectations for these games. What are you really looking for here?
Yeah, honestly, looking at it, it's two road matches in between a game at Nashville against Canada, which I think of those three, the one I'm looking at the most is that Canada game. They have some quality players. Alphonso Davies wasn't available for the Gold Cup. Neither was Jonathan David. They had Tejan Buchanan, who's now made a move to Europe. So I'm excited to see how we match up against that team. Overall expectations, I think two wins and a draw. I think anything less than that is probably a slight disappointment. We are trying to make the World Cup and show that we're not just trying to get to a World Cup, but also be successful there when we get to Qatar, hopefully in 2022. So 2 wins and a draw. I think we can at least win one match on the road. I don't think saying, it's an easy win to beat Honduras or El Salvador on the road, especially if there are crowds, which we are not so sure about. But I think 2 wins and a draw, nothing less. If we can get that, that would be extremely ecstatic. If we were to win all 3 games, that would be great. But see what happens. What do you think?
No, I for me, the minimum is 2 wins. Like what you said for me is the minimum. Like the goal is all 3, but you have to be understanding of travel, things like that. So I get why it's 2 wins and a draw because you're going South America, Nashville, South America again. It's kind of a tough slate, but nonetheless, the United States is now a top 10 team in the entire world, according to the FIFA rankings. They have finally broken that top 10 barrier. It's a barrier that's been worked towards probably since I was 8 or 9 years old. I've been waiting for one of these moments. Fans have been waiting for one of these moments. And this is what top 10 teams in the world do against weaker competition. This is what Argentina does in the Copa America consistently and qualifying for that. This is what people claim Ronaldo does when he bounces on Macedonia when they play European or World Cup qualifying. This is what elite world soccer teams do. What the United States is building towards when they're faced with this type of opposition, these type of schedule, they walk away with 7 points. They hope to eke out 9. Your minimum is 7 points. Now that you are top 10 in the world, that is the minimum expectation for me. It's 7, and then I'm hoping for 9. And also, if I'm Greg Berhalter, just keeping on those FIFA rankings, there's still a chip. Like, I don't know how you beat Mexico in 2 finals in one summer, one with a B team, and you have them at 9 and the United States at 10. If you want to talk about maybe some bigger names, Lainez, Munoz, they have some nice young talent as well. But honestly, the results are starting to speak for themselves. The United States is a better managed team. They play better as a unit, and they play grittier soccer. It's time to give I still feel like the United States was somewhat gypped. I think 9 would have been the spot. Do I get why they're I don't expect them to be top 5. They don't deserve to be top 5 by any stretch of the imagination. But after beating Mexico in not 1, but 2 finals, and we have some people call the C team in the Gold Cup, and you still won? Not to mention the fact that Walker Zimmerman, who was one of the starting center backs, was hurt. I just doesn't. I can't wrap my head around it. It almost feels like there's an American bias from overseas FIFA voters and the people who put this together. But I think 9 would have been the perfect spot. 10 is not even a bad spot for me. But my only issue is that Mexico is 9. But that should be the chip on the shoulder right there. That is exactly what I am looking at. I am saying that is my motivation. I'm trying to move up that one spot. I'm trying to, number 1, prove that I should be a top 10 country in the world and trying to hop up to that number 9 spot over Mexico because I think the United States has just as good overseas talent, domestic talent at this point. For me, it's just they beat them in the All-Star game for a reason. I know it's penalty kicks, but that I know, and it was also an all-star game, but nonetheless, it's a testament to the quality of talent in these countries. And lately, the United States has the head on the head-to-head.
Yeah, I think, and we're avid, U.S. men's national team supporters, so we're in that small boat. But for the people that aren't as big, we want consistency. We want, sure, 2 finals in one summer is great and all, but we want to see it over a consistent period of time. So, being top of this group in World Cup qualifying would be awesome, because it just shows over a course of a longer stretch of time, we can actually be the best team in CONCACAF, which hasn't been said for a long time. And sure, there were some guys missing for Mexico as well. Chucky Lozano got hurt in the Gold Cup. Of course, Raul Jimenez has been dealing with a head injury, and he's starting to now play for Wolves back in the Premier League. So there's still some guys missing for Mexico, but I agree. And they have more pressure than us, which is hard to believe, because Tata Martino, if he doesn't have a good World Cup qualifying start in his first 3 games, his job could be gone. Like, that's the reality, because they've lost 2 finals to the U.S. men's national team. And if they have a rough start, I think his job could be gone, which could shift a lot of things in CONCACAF.
It 100% can, but with that said, I think it's a good time to now dive into the squad. We'll do this position group by position group. So we'll go goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, forwards. So they brought in 3 goalkeepers, and I think this is exactly how I see the top 3. It's Ethan Horvath, who in the Nations League final came off the bench, saved a penalty kick, just magnificent performance, exactly what a backup goalkeeper to do. And for that moment, he was goalkeeper number 2 for the men's national team. But then we get to the Gold Cup, and Matt Turner does not give up a goal in the run of play. Fairfield University alumni, New England Revolution star, the best goalkeeper in the MLS, in my opinion, at this point in time. It supplants Horvath and is now clearly that number 2, but pushing for that number 1 spot against Zach Steffen. So, Christian, I'm just going to ask you this. How close is the competition?
I think it's as close as it's ever been for Zach Steffen. If, in all honesty, if I'm Greg Berhalter against El Salvador, I'm actually starting Matt Turner. That's how good his form has been over the last recent period of time. We saw it even in the All-Star game, saved a couple penalties against the Liga MX team. I think he's just been on an absurd level over, and I know how you think of him so highly. And Zach Steffen, to unfortunate his credit, he's at Manchester City, where he's never going to play over Ederson. Maybe in some FA Cup games. I know he played in the Community Shield against Leicester City, so he hasn't had a lot of game time. Is Greg Berhalter probably still going to play him? I would assume so. Could we see all 3 of these keepers in 3 games? I doubt it. I think changing the team, which will probably be consistent over the course while we break this entire squad down, we do need some consistency. You need to get this group playing together. Pulisic, of course, and there's so many different other names we'll mention. But honestly, if I'm Berhalter on Thursday, I'm starting Matt Turner. I think he's been that good. He was excellent in the Gold Cup. He's been great for the Revolution. I think personally, if I were him on Thursday, I'm starting Turner.
So is Turner your number 1 goalkeeper for the men's national team?
Right now, yes. And that's all form more than anything else. If Steffen was playing consistently, because now Horvath as well is going to be playing, week in, week out for Nottingham Forest in the 2nd division in England. The only one not playing consistently is Steffen, which for the goalkeeper position, I think is more key than many would think, because you need to, make saves consistently in game shape.
It's reaction.
Turner and Horvath are doing that, and Steffen's not. So honestly, off form, I'm starting Turner, and I have no regrets of that.
The guy has been sensational, and this is the situation he's recently in. Like, he obviously was just going against these type of teams in the Gold Cup. I'm still starting Steffen. I'm giving him obviously a lot of it depends on camp performance. Steffen, it's weird because you're looking at 2 different pros, right? Matt Turner, in my opinion, is the better pure shot stopper. Like, if I need someone to make a flying diving save, or I need someone to make that 1v1 save, he has much better 1v1 ability than Zach Steffen, in my opinion. But distribution-wise, system knowledge, because of the relationship between Steffen and Berhalter going back to Columbus, those 2 have a deeper bond, in my opinion, and they have a deeper understanding. Like, Steffen has a deeper understanding of the Berhalter system that I think gives him a leg up that, unfortunately, Matt Turner will never be able to match. It's not Matt Turner's fault that Zach Steffen wasn't able to be brought up by the Columbus or the Philadelphia Union Academy and was shipped off to Columbus. If Andre Blake isn't a thing over there, Zach Steffen would be starting for the Philadelphia Union,
Sure.
and I might be looking at this a little bit differently but nonetheless, they really worked hand in hand. Like, Steffen's rise coincided with the Columbus Crew's rise in the MLS a few years ago. which coincided with the rise of Berhalter's reputation among United States soccer. So it's kind of like a weird thing where I kind of think I love the relationship those two have, and I think that still gives Stefan a slight nod. But Turner needs to get one of these 3 starts.
Sure.
But like for me, what shows it is who gets to start in the Canada game. Like whoever gets to start in the Canada game is the goalkeeper one in Berhalter's mind, because that is the most important of 3 games. That is the one on home soil. That is the one you absolutely are not going to lose under any circumstance. It would be somewhat of an embarrassment if you did. So that's really where I'm looking. But I would have no issue with them starting Turner. It's a very close battle. It's a 1A, 1B at this point. It's a complete 50-50. But for me, it's still Stefan for now. But if Stefan only plays 10 games over the year until Qatar, and Turner has another team of the year quality season, plays quality with the men's national team, it's going to be hard. And honestly, I would not be shocked if Turner plays well here if Stefan tries to get a loan move from Manchester City in January.
And that would make complete sense.
Might be the best move for his World Cup eligibility, but also I want to see if Matt Turner gets a move overseas. Like at this point, like I understand why he wouldn't. He's comfortable. He likes where he's at in New England. His reputation's amazing. He's at the top of his game. Why leave when you're on top? But it's also, why not put yourself up against better competition? What better way to push Stefan than face higher level competition?
And it's funny enough because he's actually the oldest of the 3.
Yeah.
Horvath and Stefan are 26 and Turner's 27. So if there is a time for him to go make a move like you're mentioning, it's probably right now. After this Revolution season, maybe in January, who knows? But that would be an awesome thing to see because he definitely is capable enough to push himself to potentially playing in Europe and trying to, test himself against better competition.
Yeah, I don't think a move happens, but it's something I'd love to see happen, really just to see how good Matt Turner could be. But with that said, I think we move to the defenders. Just to say the squad here, we have George Bellow, outside back from Atlanta United, John Brooks, Sergino Dest, Mark Mckenzie, Tim Ream, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, James Sands, DeAndre Yedlin, and Walker Zimmerman. We have 10 defenders there. Pretty even split between outside backs and center backs. But the big discussion right now is who is the center back next to John Brooks. Like you have 2 firm defensive pieces in place, John Brooks and Sergino Dest right now. Sergino Dest. So what is your ideal back four for the U.S. national team?
That's a great question because it's the hottest topic besides one we'll probably mention later. Personally, I would start, of course, Sergino Dest is probably going to play off the right. We've seen him, feature off the left, and it's been not bad, but I personally love Anthony Robinson. I think he's an incredible left back who's got a lot of potential, of course, at Fulham, who are now back in the 2nd division. But once again, same theme as my pick for the goalkeeper. I think Miles Robinson should be the partner next to John Brooks in this first game of World Cup qualifying. I think, you can certainly make a case for Mark Mckenzie. He was very good in the CONCACAF Nations League. Of course, had the error against Mexico in the final, I believe. But other than that, he's been, very good for Genk in the Belgian league. Of course, you still have guys like Walker Zimmerman. I think he's another guy that maybe Berhalter trusts. James Sands also was, very good. And so there's plenty of options. You can mix and match these. I think John Brooks, of course, is going to stick there. He's been great for Wolfsburg, who are now in the Champions League. But honestly, Miles Robinson was so good in that Gold Cup. He's great in the air. He was, he came up with 2 goals. And the most important one, of course, came against Mexico in the final. He's got, a very good profile. He's been playing a lot for Atlanta. I think, once again, was so fantastic in the Gold Cup. You can't miss with him there. So playing him alongside John Brooks, to me, is the best fit.
To be honest, I don't like Miles Robinson. Here's my depth chart for the center back position. My other outside back, for me, my 2 favorite outside backs are Reggie Cannon. I know he's a natural right, but I like him on the left. I love Reggie Cannon. I think him and Dest would work pretty good. They've seen him once or twice. Wouldn't mind Yedlin either, but like Yedlin does better on the right for me. Can't run that. I think that would sacrifice the potential of Dest really high end potential. But for me, it is Mark Mckenzie. That is my guy. The way the depth chart works for me, John Brooks 1, Mckenzie 2, Robinson 3, Zimmerman 4, Ream 5. And honestly, James Sands, the deeper you got into the CONCACAF Gold Cup, the worse and worse he looked. In my opinion, he got more and more air prone. He's still a young guy. There's still room to develop, but not yet. I would really love to see if they could get oh my, I forget his first name, but Scally, the kid from New York, who's not, I think it's Mönchengladbach.
Yes.
Yes, I think he's a really bright young talent. I think it's JJ or Joe Scally. I know it starts with a J. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it. But that kid's a really, really, really bright talent that I hope can maybe work his way into some appearances. But I wouldn't mind Anthony Robinson again because he really provides a lot going for him when you face those bigger teams in the World Cup. That a little extra attacking spunk could give you something, but he also gets caught out a little bit too much for my liking for an attacking outside back. Excuse me, sorry. But so for me, it goes Mckenzie. I just think Mckenzie. I think Mckenzie is just as good aerially as Robinson. I think he's a little bit. I know he had that one error, but I think he's a little bit better at his feet. And I also think
Sure.
he's a little bit. I think he's a little. He just gives more of an experience aura, in my opinion. Like he gives an experience of I've been there. And I think Gangson at Europa League or Champions League this year, I forget which one. I think they're at some European competition. So I think you're good. That experience is going to be very, very crucial in my mind as we lead into the World Cup. And I'd love to. That's another position where I want to see both of these guys get their due because both of them are really good talents, have come up for the United States in some really big moments. You have an unusual amount of defensive depth for the United States. I still remember the moments where it was like
Omar Gonzalez.
Omar Gonzalez. I'm thinking of the Matt Beasler was the name I was actually thinking of. Matt Beasler in 2014 getting killed by Romelu Lukaku, and as he came on as an extra time sub in the Belgium game in that World Cup. Like I remember those were the days, and it was John Brooks was a backup back then. But now you have such a good Berhalter has the right type of problem. He has to choose between too many good talents, and any of those talents would have been easy starters in 14, 18. There's a plethora of talent on this defensive side where just don't do too much. Find the best partnership, grow their partnership together, and stick with it. For me, it's Mckenzie. I think he's better in the air than Robinson. I think he just gives more of a leadership aura, and I think him and John Brooks will work really well together. And then outside back, I don't mind Robinson. I don't. For me, Bellow's that kind of not one of those guys. Neither is Sam Vines. For me, it's really Robinson and Cannon as my two main guys, and then we'll kind of build from there to see what other talent we have on that left side.
Yeah, of course, the other one we didn't mention is George Bellow, which I think we may see him once in these 3 games. That's possible. But I mean, he looked
really liked him.
Yeah, I think yeah, he looked pretty good in the Gold Cup final, especially. I mean, that was a surprise pick when we saw the lineup against Mexico. We didn't expect him to see, in the lineup because we had only seen him against Martinique, which had been weeks before. And he's been very good for Atlanta. He's got 2 assists in 16 league starts. So I'd be interested to see him maybe one game. I don't know which one of those it would be. I would assume maybe towards the end of that Canada game, coming off the bench, but I don't expect to see too much of him. Honestly, Tim Ream probably starts maybe 2 of these games because we saw him in the final against Mexico in the Gold Cup, and it seems that Berhalter trusts him. And he's one of the older guys in the squad. He's 33, so
he's a veteran. I remember when he was coming up with the Red Bulls. I think he went to Bolton Wanderers or Tottenham from the Red Bulls. I think it was Bolton. But yeah, it was Bolton Wanderers. But it wasn't Tottenham. That's too big of a club. But I remember when he was like a 22, 23-year-old kid with the Red Bulls, and he's built a very nice career for himself overseas. But now moving on to the midfielders, only 5 midfielders. A couple of the people are listed as forwards, like a Brendan Aronson. I consider more of a midfielder, a guy who can kind of drop a little bit deeper than a lot of the forwards. Sorry, I don't know why I have some gas. But here the 5 midfielders that are listed are Kellen Acosta, Tyler Adams, Sebastian Lletget, Weston McKennie, and Christian Roldan. There is not one person in this squad with less than 14 caps, and that's Tyler Adams, who would have a lot more if he could go more than 60 minutes without sustaining an injury. He's an amazing talent, but the guy gets banged up very, very easily. So there's not really much controversy here for me. You know who your midfield trio probably is. I mean, I have a feeling it'll be McKennie, Adams, Lletget, or maybe I think you'll see Aronson drop into a third midfielder role here, kind of be that attacking facilitator. Even see maybe Pulisic drop into that more attacking, the role we saw Yunus Musa play with that team when he was up with the squad.
Yeah.
But the midfielder's pretty straightforward. I like to really see Christian Roldan though, like in maybe a pressure situation, and know how much we could trust him though. What is your kind of takeaway from that group?
It's funny because I actually think Kellen Acosta is almost a lock, which is maybe hard to believe for some. Before I mention anybody else, I mean, Eric Williamson, prayers up to him because we saw him in the Gold Cup. Maybe he was a guy that, could have got a call up, but of course tore his ACL. So hopefully he can return because I really liked him. But that's for a future, qualifier. In terms of, the five you mentioned, I think Acosta had such a good Gold Cup that it's almost inevitable that you have to put him in the lineup. Who you drop out is probably Tyler Adams, which is funny enough because I think he's probably the second most talented of those five you mentioned, because I think Weston McKennie is the best midfielder we have. And he's a lock. He'll start. But other than that, Kellen Acosta was great. And even in the Nations League, he played a very big role in us beating Mexico the first time. But I mean, Sebastian Lletget is a lock, it seems, for every game. So honestly, if I had to guess, it would probably be Acosta, Lletget, and McKennie, and Adams coming off the bench because of his injury concerns you mentioned. I would love to see Adams, of course. He's playing at Leipzig. He's been a very, quality midfielder when he's healthy, but that's the key. Is he healthy? Can he stay fully fit to play 60, 70 minutes? I'm not so sure. And of course, Christian Roldan is a very underrated guy that many don't talk about, but plays a big role when he's on the field. So I think, you can go with any of those five. I'm assuming all five will make a start at least. But for me, I'd actually disagree with you and go with Acosta in the starting 11, but we can agree to disagree.
That I went from my perspective, but from the Berhalter perspective, he loves those MLS guys, and we could dive into that in a minute about his MLS bias because I actually kind of like him more than a lot of people. I think there's something I like about staying to the roots of the team, and like those guys really come up clutch. But I think you've convinced me. You're 100% right. Acosta will get into that lineup. You convinced me on that. Acosta will get into that lineup, as will McKennie, as will Lletget, and honestly, this is going to sound weird, but I remember when Adams was playing right back a little bit for Leipzig. He might be like the third best right back we have.
And that's without Reggie Cannon there.
Yeah.
Who's injured right now. So,
Adams
Adams has to get fully fit in order to really revitalize himself into back in the squad, because how can you trust a guy if he's going to miss every game? That's the problem with him. So hopefully he can stay fit, because I think he's extremely talented and we could really utilize his skill set if he's fully fit.
Yeah, and before I go into the strikers, I just want to note this. So the United States called 26 players into the camp, but you can only have 23 on match day. So like Tim Weah is a guy I'm about to mention in the list. He's injured, but they don't necessarily need to replace him because they have 26 guys. You can only roster 23 on match day. So that's kind of a Berhalter thing. I don't think he called anybody else as a replacement. But so the forwards they have listed are Brendan Aronson, who's been stellar in Austria, and he's really been stellar when he's played for the national team. Conrad De La Fuente, the youngster who recently moved to Marseille from Barcelona. Jordan Pefok, who you might know as Jordan Sibatu, who I don't know where the name change came, but okay. Ricardo Pepi, the FC Dallas youngster who has double-digit MLS goals this year. Honestly, wow player. Christian Pulisic, you all know about Captain America. Gio Reyna, future Captain America. Kids in Ashland Animal, Claudia's kid, American soccer royalty. Josh Sargent recently moved to Norwich City. And I just mentioned Tim Weah, who is unfortunately hurt. But the discussion when it comes to that forward group is who is that true striker? Because we talked about it before, like, you have a number one center back with the men's national team. And it's like, okay, you have that lead defender, but it's okay, who's your number two? But you have a number of very, very good options that you would be comfortable with. There's not really that comfortable option. Like there's been a bunch of guys on the defense where it's like Mckenzie, Robinson. They both made, and Ream because of experience, all have very good claims. Even Zimmerman all have very good claims to be that center back too, because of how well they played. Nobody on the men's national team has truly made, none of the forwards have truly made that claim, in my opinion. Have really given me, it's not like, oh, they're all amazing. They're all spotty, and there's nobody's really taken a stranglehold of consistency for me to be in love with them.
Yeah, it's the most interesting topic in the U.S. men's national team, in my opinion, because it's probably the most important position for us, because everything else in the field really is almost, you have so many different consistent guys all over the field. Would Ricardo Pepi start in the game against El Salvador? No, but I mean, you can certainly make a case he's going to play a big role in these 3 games. I mean, you mentioned he has double-digit goals. He's 5th in the MLS with 11. His XG is actually at 6.7, so he's significantly overperforming. So he's getting goals when you don't expect him to. He's made 16 league starts. He's playing a big role for Dallas, who's trying to make a playoff push. if I had to go with a guy I want starting against El Salvador, and it's not going to be Pepe, because I don't think in his first cap he's going to get a start in World Cup qualifying, I would go with Jordan Pefok. I think Josh Sargent, I love him. I think he's still got some room to grow, but he hasn't done enough. Like you've mentioned, he hasn't, really taken that position by his own. He's, hasn't scored any goals in the league for Norwich, which he hasn't made any starts. So not too much you can put on him. He did score 2 goals and had an assist against Bournemouth in a Carabao Cup game a couple weeks ago.
Still a good opponent. It's not like that's a 4th division side.
Sure.
That's a Premier League side.
Yeah, that's a team looking to get into the Premier League next year. So I would go with Pefok, who, is starred for young boys. He scored a couple goals against Bayern Leverkusen in the Europa League, I think 2 years ago. He's 25, so he's been around. I mean, he's only made a couple, starts and a couple appearances for the U.S. men's national team. Scored against Honduras in the semifinal of the CONCACAF Nations League, which was huge because we looked really flat in that game, and he came up with a goal when we needed it most. So you're going to have a lock. Pulisic will start, even though he just came off COVID. Gio Reyna is going to start. He's a lock. So the striker position is the only one available. I would go with Pefok, but I want to hear what you think, because it's certainly the biggest topic we can talk about here.
See, it's like weird because none of Josh Sargent has the best goal scoring rate, but I feel like if I remember those goals, it came against like a significantly lesser side, and he might have padded his numbers a little bit. Because Jordan Pefok only has 1 goal in 6 appearances. A good amount of them have been substitute appearances. So obviously that plays into it. I honestly want to see multiple get a chance because I'm not sold on any of them.
Right.
I think I'd give Sargent the first game off of just experience. I'm going to be honest, experience.
Sure.
That's really the only thing he has. He has 16 goals and he has a higher pressure rate. And I honestly
believe pressures are excellent.
Yeah, he pressures the ball more. He creates mistakes, and against lesser sides, those mistakes are bound to happen, and he could create them. Because you have Pulisic who could score. You have Aronson, who has shown a great ability to score when he's played for the national team. Leggett even knows how to come up in these qualifying games against crappier opponents. There's so many guys who are Gio Reyna has a knack who can put the ball in the back of the net. Like so many of these guys know how to put the ball in the net that aren't strikers at a better level that I'm just like, I'd rather somebody who forces the mistakes. And then if I'm looking at that performance 55 minutes in and I go, I need a goal, Jordan Pefok, you know what to do. Go win the spot for the next game. Go get yourself a goal. But even I want to see Ricardo Pepi get a shot because he just got a knack for putting the ball in the back of the net. I'm waiting for him to make a move to Europe as well. 11 goals at age 18. Like the FC Dallas Academy is an academy. It is the best academy in the United States, undoubtedly. For me, it goes FC Dallas, Philadelphia Union, Barcelona Residency Academy in Arizona. Look into it. Legit. That's where Caden Clark, a lot of other really good talents have come from. And then the Red Bulls Academy for me. That's how it goes. Or you could argue Galaxy or really a lot of other academies. But for me, those are the top 4. But I just need to see someone take a stranglehold on this job. Like, that's really it. Like, the guy I'm most excited to see out of all the players I just mentioned is Conrad De La Fuente. I really want to see what he provides on the wing. Maybe he could really provide a role off the bench because he could prove to be that spark plug that everybody hoped he was going to be at Barcelona. Because I think this move to Marseille was the best thing for his career. He's now going to get consistent playing time. The coaches there really like him. They are investing in him, and he has looked very good there so far. But as far as the striker goes, I'm not sold on any of them.
No,
I'm not overly excited about any of them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned De La Fuente because he's actually started all 3 games in the league for Marseille. They're 5th in the league. He's got 2 assists. So he's playing very dynamic off that left wing. Of course, he's not going to start. That's inevitable because Pulisic is there, Reyna's there. But he can make an impact off the bench. And so can guys like Brendan Aronson if he doesn't start. I mean, he's almost inevitably, he played a huge role in Salzburg getting into a Champions League spot. He scored 2 goals and had an assist across 2 legs to get them in there. So I'm excited for this front line because, it's going to be, chop and change. I think you'll see at least Sargent and Pefok make a start each. I don't think Pepe starts. He maybe gets 1, but I'll see him probably coming off the bench in probably 2 games. But he's probably the most exciting player to me, just because, of how good he is at such a young age. He's a clinical striker. I'm so excited to see him because if he can, provide what we think he possibly could, he could be the starting striker for the U.S. men's national team down the line. So it's going to be the most interesting topic in these 3 games.
No, and it's also remember this is a long-term thing. Like you're not looking for a starter now. You're looking for a starter for Qatar next year, like next winter, I believe that World Cup is, because they had to move it because of how the temperatures are. So you have a long time to figure this out. Like honestly, I still haven't closed the door on Daryl DK all the way for that spot, even because the guy's just such a dynamic goal scorer, and he did not look bad with Barnsley overseas. He just needs to refine himself as a pure soccer player. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like, but there's also a lot to prove, and that's what's going to be most exciting about this. Remember, guys, World Cup qualifying starts Thursday, September 2nd, and then you got a game on the 5th and the 8th every 3 days. So decent chance to see some squad rotation with all the travel. But thank you guys for tuning in. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and find TWSN on all social medias, and also find me and Christian on our social medias. We'll probably be talking a lot of US soccer on our Twitters. So make sure to stay tuned, and thank you guys, and we'll see you in a future video.